Episode 4 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms just dropped, and that ending might have doomed one of the most honorable Targaryens we've ever seen, because Prince Baelor just made a choice that could get him killed. You're about to understand why this changes everything for Dunk, and why the trial of 7 is far more dangerous than it looks. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Baelor's decision really means, and why someone important probably isn't surviving. Episode 5. Let's start with the biggest moment everyone's talking about, because when Baelor Breakspear rides onto the field to join Dunk's side, the entire arena goes silent, and the moment is treated like a hero's entrance. But this isn't just a cool visual. It breaks every rule of Targaryen politics, and here's why that matters so much. Baelor is the crown prince and heir to the Iron Throne, and he's the son of King Daeron II, which makes him the second most powerful man in the Seven Kingdoms. And Maekar is his younger brother, which means Aerion and Egg are Baelor's nephews. So when Baelor chooses to fight against Aerion, he's choosing a hedge knight over his own blood, and that's political suicide. Because if Baelor loses the trial, he sided against his family for nothing, but if he wins, he's publicly declaring his nephew a dishonorable coward who deserved to be beaten, and either way, the Targaryen family is torn apart in front of the entire realm. But here's what most fans missed about Baelor's entrance, because he doesn't just join Dunk's side, he makes a declaration that echoes through the entire Game of Thrones universe when he says, "This man protected the innocent, as every true knight must." And that line is basically the thesis statement of the entire show, because a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms isn't really about who wins fights. It's about what it means to be a knight, and Baelor is saying protecting the innocent matters more than protecting power, and more than protecting family, which is the exact opposite of what we saw in Game of Thrones, where power almost always crushed honor, and survival mattered more than doing the right thing. Now let's rewind and talk about how we got here, because the episode opens with Egg visiting Dunk in prison and finally revealing the truth that he's Prince Aegon Targaryen. And Dunk is furious because he feels tricked and used, and like his whole life has been turned into a joke. But Egg explains that he wasn't playing games, and he wasn't mocking Dunk. He ran away from his family and their expectations, and he chose Dunk because Dunk represented what a knight was supposed to be, and not what knights usually are. And that's important because it explains why Egg is willing to risk everything later, just to help Dunk survive. When Dunk is brought before the Targaryen princes and demands a trial by combat, Aerion refuses and instead invokes the Trial of 7, which is this ancient ritual where 7 knights fight 7 knights, and the gods are supposed to decide who is right and who is wrong. And even Maekar opposes it because it puts royal blood at risk and could spiral out of control. But Aerion chooses it for one simple reason, because it lets him hide behind royal power instead of facing Dunk alone. Aerion's entire plan is built on one assumption, that no one will be willing to die for a hedge knight, especially not when the royal family is on the other side, and he believes fear will protect him better than skill ever could. But Aerion underestimates 2 things: how much people hate him, and how many knights still believe in the idea of honor even when it's dangerous. Egg manages to convince Ser Lyonel Baratheon to fight for Dunk, and Lyonel is young and reckless and drawn to impossible challenges, and he sees this as a chance to prove himself and to strike back at injustice, and he becomes one of the most important pieces on Dunk's side, even though he barely knows him. Dunk himself believes Sir Steffon Fossaway will fight for him because Steffon claims he believes in true knighthood and in standing up for what's right, and his squire Raymond is loyal and proud and ready to follow him anywhere. But then the betrayal hits right before the trial, when Steffon switches sides after being promised a lordship, and in that moment, he proves that he never cared about honor or justice at all, only about his own advancement. Raymond immediately throws down his shield and walks away from him because he can't serve a knight who sold his principles. And when Lyonel Baratheon knights Raymond right there on the field so he can fight for Dunk, it becomes one of the most powerful moments in the episode, because it shows that knighthood isn't about your name or your birth. It's about what you choose to do when it costs you something. But even after that, Dunk still doesn't have enough champions, and he stands alone in the arena and shouts, "Are there no true knights among you?" and the camera drifts across all these lords and knights who could help him but won't because they're afraid of what will happen if they stand against the royal family. And there's this long, unbearable silence where no one moves and no one speaks, and everyone looks away, and that silence says everything, because even when people know what's right, most of them would rather be safe than brave, and would rather survive than be honorable. And that's exactly what makes Baelor's entrance so powerful, because right when all hope seems lost, and right when it looks like Dunk will have to forfeit because he can't find enough knights, the gates open, and Baelor Breakspear rides in, and suddenly, the Crown Prince himself is choosing a hedge knight over his own nephew and over his own political safety, and everyone watching realizes they're witnessing something that almost never happens in Westeros, which is someone in power choosing the hard thing instead of the easy thing. There's also an important moment earlier in the episode that makes this even darker, because Prince Daeron, Baelor's younger brother, and known for his drunkenness and strange visions, comes to apologize to Dunk and tells him about a dream where he saw Dunk standing beneath a dead dragon. And in this world, prophetic dreams always mean something, even if their meaning isn't clear at first. And a dead dragon usually symbolizes a dead Targaryen, which makes Baelor's decision terrifying, because now the trial of 7 isn't just dangerous, it might be fatal. If Baelor dies in this fight, then Maekar becomes the heir to the throne, and Maekar is Aerion and Egg's father, which creates an impossible situation, because Maekar's brother died defending a hedge knight who struck Maekar's son. So, what does Maekar do then? Does he honor his brother's choice, or does he punish Dunk anyway? And that's exactly the kind of cruel no-win scenario George R.R. Martin loves to create, where every possible outcome hurts someone and no one truly wins. The Trial of 7 itself is based on the idea that the gods will intervene to deliver divine judgment, and that the righteous side will be favored, but now we have prince versus prince, and blood versus blood, and honor versus power. And Baelor's entrance completely changes the meaning of the trial, because it's no longer just about whether Dunk was right to strike Aerion, it's about whether honor can actually survive in a world built on fear and politics and violence. That's why this ending hits so hard, because in Game of Thrones, the honorable characters usually die, and the ones who play the game of power usually win, and Ned Stark chose honor and paid for it with his life. And now Baelor is making the same choice, by rejecting politics and choosing what's right instead. And the question the show is asking is whether this world will finally reward that kind of choice, or whether Baelor is doomed the same way Ned was doomed. And we won't know the answer until episode 5. Because Baelor joining Dunk's side isn't just about saving one hedge knight, it's about saying that the old ideals of knighthood still matter, and that power doesn't excuse cruelty, and that sometimes the right thing to do is to stand against your own family, even when it costs you everything. And that might make Baelor one of the most heroic Targaryens we've ever seen, or the next one to die because of it. The fact that the episode ends right as the Trial of 7 is about to begin is perfect, because it leaves us with maximum tension, and gives us a full week to imagine how this fight is going to play out and who's going to survive, whether Dunk's belief in true knighthood will finally be rewarded or crushed. So here's what the ending really means, because Baelor choosing Dunk isn't just a dramatic twist. It's a moral statement that justice should come before blood, and that protecting the innocent matters more than protecting power, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is fight the people you love when they're wrong. And that's what makes this one of the most powerful moments in the entire Dunk and Egg story, and possibly one of the most tragic too. If you noticed anything I missed, drop it in the comments, and let's break this episode down together before episode 5 drops. And when the Trial of 7 finally happens, I'll be doing a full frame-by-frame analysis of every blow and every death. So make sure you're subscribed, because this fight is about to change everything.